Wow, that was a crazy ayahuasca journey. I wanted to call in my spirit guides and also see spirits. I set minor intentions for that, and I also set intentions for accessing like divine truth and pure love, like God's love, and the uncomfortability of starting without music. But I wanted that context of nothing added to the scope, nothing brought in, not calling in other spirits or dimensions through the music, so that only what was already in me would be shown. The journey started out with a sense of like fear that something wasn't right. And I'm feeling that fear was already in me, and I'm just feeling it. And it heightened, and then I threw up and felt a little bit better. And then the visuals started. There were some visuals before that, but nothing that I could really make out. There were some darker shapes and the swirly stuff, and the swirls were going in a clockwise direction. It didn't feel horribly negative. But as the journey went on, there was a pretty color that came in. It was blue and maybe turquoise and greens, kind of flashy. And that's when, it kind of shifted back. And then I think I saw golds, but darker forms, and a girl laying on her side as if she were fallen over, because she was fresh. She didn't look dead, but she had dark curly hair and had a flower. I think it was red, or a red tone, or pinkish red. And she was wearing black and white. And then it was gone. And then the blues came in again and became stronger and more sideways. They weren't swirling. So it wasn't a swirling mass. And another girl showed up, and this time she was an older girl laying on her side as if she had fallen over or was dead, but not dead, because she looked fresh too. And she was wearing blue and was blonde and, had that sort of princess look, I suppose you could say. And this next thing that happened was that circus started, but I felt the sense of dread come over me, and I saw an image of a woman passing in a cart, like it was like kind of floating, and it was just dreadful. She was like this, maybe you could say, goddess of like scorn and terror or something. And as she was passing, the dread came on. And then it built from there as she laid over her foundation of, it felt like the rules. And the rules came in, and it was that circus again that I've seen in every ayahuasca journey, and I can never figure out what the hell it means, because it's usually it's like enhancing the journey and making it interesting, but it's also kind of exciting and interesting, but then dreadful. And this time it was extremely dreadful, and I just felt this fear go all the way through me, and I was kind of curled up into a ball, and I wanted it to end, and I wanted to open my eyes and come out of the journey, but I wanted to go through it. So I set that intention again to be in divine truth and to call in pure love, like God's love, to be able to be humble and to see the truth. And as I did that, I felt worse and worse. It was almost like a pressure against me for having those intentions. And it grew and got worse and worse. And I could see these it's the same old circus that I've seen in so many journeys, and there's a lot of color and light and antics and activity. There seems to be little explosions going around, and those explosions make like the teeth show up, the aggression and the gnashing of fear, and different things come out in the circus performers that are otherwise looking so pretty. And then they have this, it's almost like they're being bombed or something, but they've got this, these light flashes of like that expose them for who they are, and they expose them to be tricksters and all kinds of unfriendly, controlling people that want you to stay in that space that's about them performing, and that they want your eyes on them because that's how they get their energy or something to perform. So they become really engaged and dramatic and beautiful at times and playful and exciting. And then there's also this other side of it that's it's going on, and it's this weirdness that doesn't really accomplish anything. It's just it's like a big party, like a big cocktail party where, you go, wow, that was fun, but you don't really take away anything from it other than some kind of weird fun memory, because it was so draining, and it uses so much energy, and that in itself seems fun, I suppose, because it's happening. And then that dread from that cart and that goddess, or that dreadful, and she was in a blue cart and she was lit up, but it was if she was, later I thought maybe she was leaving, and the dread was that, like, so maybe that was me in the cart leaving, and the dread was me letting go of that circus that had been going on, and that I was still holding a value to as just a part of life. like, oh, here we are. What else are we going to do? Let's try to have fun and perform and do all these things and wear different hats. And that has been a big part of what I came away with from my original ayahuasca journeys, that life was kind of just a big circus, and you might as well just put on all those hats and become something, because that's all it really is for anyways. And so now I'm questioning that, and I think that's ready to die. And so what happened next is, as I'm laying there in this terror, it was literally terror. The sensations were just absolute fear through my body. And that as that came on, I became part of the death of the whole entire circus. And it's like vines started to grow around everything and put the light out of it. And then everything turned brown. It was like earth, and I was part of that brown earth. And it was terrifying to be kind of stuck in that place of earth. And so I kept asking for that divine truth and that God's love. And as I kept I almost felt like I was holding a crucifix up, like that feeling of, I am using my will and I insist that there's more than this. And I insist that this is not the end all. And so what happened is I had to go through that, what felt like a few times, like repeating that. And then I felt some relief, and then I was popped up above all of that, and there were other people there. And now I was on kind of a higher tier where I could see down, and immediately right next to me there were two, I don't know if they were like twins, but it seemed like they were in like athletic clothes, but like white ones that were really clean, and maybe one was red and one was blue, but they were white with team symbols on them or something, but they were kind of like galactic, and they were clean cut, strong, very flexible, very they had a very different vibe than the circus people that were down below, that were kind of almost like high on heroin or something, and like they felt like they were in addictions and stuff. And these higher, more athletic type, they were throwing bombs down from there, like just handheld light balls that were exploding down below, and they were laughing. Like, to me it felt like extremely rude, like they were laughing, like they were gleefully, joyfully throwing things down below to destroy that circus kind of reality. And the vibe was so different in this place, and it, like, immediately I thought, wow, if this is truth, I like it, but I don't like it, because I didn't like that kind of mockery of that other world and that other reality. And yet I suppose that's the truth, is that is kind of something, when you step out of that, you're sort of condescending to it. And that was a strange breakthrough, because I've seen that circus or that reality that just goes on, and I'm like, oh no, not this again. And there were ayahuasca journeys because the music was going where I would kind of enjoy it and just watch it, and it just seemed endless, that it was this whole group of crazy people doing all these things that were kind of all, dependent on each other for their performances. But they were all, it was like playful and fun, but then kind of sickly too, like almost, probably cabarets and burlesque acts and stuff too, where it's sort of caught up in their weird drama, and then as quickly as they let go of it, they become another one. And that seems significant too, like that it's like, oh, now I'm this, oh, now I'm that, oh, that didn't work, I'm this. And just dropping one hat for another repeatedly over and over to stay in the performance. And so when it all died and that cart was driving off, but that was before that reality came clearly in my visions, that's where the dread was, in the leaving of the cart, or that she was the leader of that show, and she was demanding you perform in it. And there was definitely a feeling of that as well, that was my fear, was that if I didn't perform, and I didn't participate, that I wasn't accepted in that community. And it was such a great community. Why would I not want to perform and be accepted in that? And so there was this conflict of emotions, like hiding, wanting to hide from that, and going into a state of fear. So the other things, I'm going to pause here. I was able to throw up, but it was so bad. It was like really scratchy and rough from the MAO inhibitor and like the capsules. And I had taken 6 of those, so more than usual, and they were all very full capsules. So I probably had 7 grams of Syrian rue, and the way it was coming up was kind of just a like real scratchy, like the material hadn't broken down, and it was a very excruciating moment vomiting there. That second time was the small amount. The first time was kind of watery and just that usual, reactive vomit that was also excruciating. But, boy, that was crazy. And then as I got comfortable again, if you could call it that, trying to think of the next thing that happened, there was definitely a lot of that. I think the circus story part never really cleared, because maybe it was a dying part of me that I couldn't celebrate that yet. And so that's the illusion, that all this time since ayahuasca 2014, that those journeys brought me into kind of an expression. So that was freedom towards something greater, and that was just another illusory state that was not really giving me a purpose beyond and I think that's where I had come to that agreement last summer that was not working. And then I went through the winter and then into this new season with that intention of rebuilding my life through the old purposes that I had wanted so long ago, which were the mediumship, connection, control of spirits, because I guess the connection's already always there, and to be able to have the power to make money at my purpose. And so I've been starting to step into that more and more. Like, I'm not just running only an Airbnb now. I'm doing workshops. But there's this part of me that I suppose has to let go of that illusion. And then my own teachings say to pull that up with you. Like when you look on the Kabbalah, to pull that along with you. So you're not losing. You're not rejecting that expression. You're taking it with you into a new dimension. And then, I could see those athletic kind of Spartans or whatever they were. And that in such a strange way, how much lighter they were, even though they were kind of wicked in a different way. The whole circus group seems so wicked in a way, though. And when they were exposed, whenever those bombs hit, and they were being exposed for like being tricksters and being like aggressive, like they were hiding all their aggression behind their facades of play, and that somewhere in there, all of that was coming to a head with that queen on her blue cart, because she was glowing and she was passing and kind of floating and then dragging that behind her. She had laid that intention of death over it. And so I was going into this very conflicting state of not wanting that to die, because that looks so lively and exciting and luring and interesting and fun. And so feeling like maybe there was something wrong with me, because I'm supposed to be embracing that, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing, because that's life, but that's actually at the bottom of life. So when I kept saying, show me divine truth, and I kept saying, just God's love, and I have the humility to perceive that, and I kept holding that, and I felt like I had this huge force against me, and I kept just claiming that, like at the risk of complete annihilation. And then and then I popped through, and it was like literally like that feeling of popping through and being in a brighter space that's higher, that can look down on the other space, and not feeling guilty for that, although that was a little strange to see those bombs. But now I understand those are like truth bombs or truth light ups. So they're not harmful, they're loving, because you can't go higher unless you have that truth, and you need to see the facades and deal with all of those to want to move out of it, to want change. Okay.